Okay, for the month of December, I asked people to come up with battles they wanted me to go through with my 9-point strategy. And someone mentioned Gaara versus Sandman quite a few months ago. I'm probably pronouncing the name wrong. Gaara is a Naruto character. Again, probably pronouncing that one wrong as well. I haven't really watched that anime at all. So I actually had to do some research on this character. And essentially what you kind of have is an earth manipulator, specifically more towards sand. Okay, so you have someone who can manipulate sand versus somebody who is an earth manipulator who is comprised of sand. Okay, Sandman, of course, is one of the main villains of Spider-Man. He's been a villain, he's been an ally, he's been a villain again. In Spider-Man 3, he was depicted as the person who essentially killed Uncle Ben. So, let's try and grant it. We have this bizarrely brilliant sort of character in Gaara. I watched some of the AMVs. The one that's Enter the Sandman is done just ridiculously well. Beautiful pun, too, because it's a character who controls sand. And as always, we have the 9 criteria. You need speed, fighting ability, strength, durability. How well can this is how well can you come back from damage, and vulnerability. This is how much damage can you actually take. Think healing factor, and the other one is like Superman's skin. I've had a sore throat, so please bear with me. The other things like energy projection, versatility, X factor. I feel like I'm leaving something out. There's a problem with doing one-shot videos. So intelligence, fighting ability, speed, strength, durability, and vulnerability. That's what it was. I left out one of those guys. They have energy projection, versatility, and X factor. And as always, whoever has the highest amount is the one who has the higher tendency of winning. If it's a 5-4, it's pretty close. If it's a 6-3, the person with a 6 more than likely should win 2 out of every 3 encounters, and so on and so forth. Let's get right into it. We'll start the first one with intelligence. From what I'm able to gather of Gaara's character, that's like that weird, almost kind of sociopathic, but very methodical, very to the point. No wasted movement, kind of like a surgeon. Where Sandman, on the other hand, in some of the comics, he's actually had split personalities. He's actually been broken down into 2 individual characters, one good, one evil, and he's always had some sort of kind of like essentially mental issues. He's either been overtaken by heavy amounts of grief or anger. So he's somebody who, from an emotional standpoint, you can pretty easily adjust either way. Where from what I've seen of Gaara, no. You cannot shake him. So one person is undeniably focused, and it's hard to get unfocused. Another person, you can rattle really, really easily and throw him off his game. That makes me give intelligence to Gaara. Fighting ability. You've got a guy who's trained in the martial arts because that's how he controls things, versus a guy who's kind of a brawler who uses powers. Give that one to Gaara. Overall strength. Strength comes down to essentially the bare essentials of your overall physical strength. And from what I've seen of Gaara, he doesn't seem to have anything that's near superhuman strength. He can use his sand to do lots of things, but he himself doesn't seem to actually have a high degree of super strength. Where Sandman does. Sorry. Now we're coming down to durability. How well can you come back from an attack? I will have to give durability to Sandman. Sandman has taken relentless beatings, but since he's comprised of sand, as long as he can get his body to reanimate itself, he has no problems coming back from almost anything, except for water. Now I'm down to invulnerability. This is kind of a bizarre one when it comes to invulnerability. I only say it's kind of a bizarre one because Gaara can create just some amazing shields. And it's really hard to actually physically hurt Sandman because most things go right through him. Unless, of course, you get water. If you get water on Sandman, you can pretty much pummel him pretty easily. So I will probably give the vulnerability edge to Gaara. Because what I've seen of Gaara taking a physical assault, he's almost like he's made of stone. And I would think that the ability to beat up stone is probably, much more difficult than his ability to essentially try to beat up sand. So I will give, that's a questionable, but I would give that one to Gaara. Speed. I have to give speed to Sandman. I know I've seen Gaara do attacks that are just ridiculously huge, but he himself doesn't seem to really move. He doesn't. In theory, he doesn't need to, but he's a very stationary opponent versus somebody who seems to be going all over the place. So right now we're 6 in and we're pretty well tied up. But now we're down to energy projection, versatility, and X factor. Energy projection. How good is your distance game? This is Gaara. This is Gaara by a landslide, no pun intended. While Sandman is really great at close quarters combat, with the ability to turn his hands into like sand maces and sand sledgehammers, he's pretty good when it comes to that. But seeing some of the things that Gaara can kick out, at a distance, this fight is entirely Gaara. Versatility. Gaara's got a lot of attacks and a lot of defensive abilities. Sandman has recently shown that he can make duplicates of himself. So you have a massive amount of area of effects, as well as the ability to create near impenetrable force fields that can almost cover cities, versus the ability to make duplicates of yourself. I have to give versatility to Gaara. I think just the amount of abilities and skills that he has when it comes to controlling sand is just insane. Sandman has got a lot of abilities at his disposal. I think Gaara's just got him beat when it comes to that. Now we're down to the X factor. The weird thing about this is you have 2 different Earth manipulators who primarily specialize in sand. It would come down to, does Sandman's ability and connection with sand, how well would that affect what Gaara could do with sand? And how well could what Gaara do with sand affect Sandman? That's what I picture most of this fight coming out. I picture this fight almost just being 2 people almost trying to mentally defeat one another. Because I'm pretty sure once Gaara goes, oh, this dude's made of sand, he probably wouldn't say this dude's made of sand. He'd go, oh, he's made of sand. I can probably control you. I'll encase you in sand. Oh, you are sand. Okay, I'll encase you in yourself. Versus Sandman's ability to manipulate her and to manipulate sand. I don't know if he would have the ability to try to counteract some of the things that Gaara could do. If you can, even just for a brief while, to get in close, he could probably do some pretty good damage on Gaara. And once he gets his focus kind of pushed aside, maybe some of that speed and strength advantage that Sandman has could really turn the tide in his favor. However, the moment Gaara kind of gets any sort of foothold again, he's probably going to be able to take it to Sandman pretty fast and pretty effectively. So out of the battle between Gaara and Sandman, I'm actually going to put this as a 6-3, but it could pretty easily become a 4-5 depending on how the X Factor plays out. How well could Gaara control Sandman? How well could Sandman control the sand that Gaara uses? I'm more inclined to think that given what I've seen from both characters, that Gaara himself probably definitely does have a pretty significant edge over Sandman.